The sun was already dropping behind the red mesas when Cole Mercer saw her on the ridge. At first, he thought she was a shadow cast by the rocks, but then she moved, just slightly, and his gut tightened. A woman lay slumped against a boulder, her dark hair tangled and loose. One leg stretched awkwardly as if it no longer obeyed her. Out here, miles from any settlement, that posture usually meant one thing: she wouldn't last the night. Cole slowed his horse, scanning the land. Apache territory. He knew the risks well enough. Still, leaving her felt like a death sentence he'd be choosing for her himself. He dismounted carefully, boots crunching against gravel, one hand resting near his rifle. The woman didn't react. Her eyes were closed, her face calm in a way that didn't quite fit someone badly hurt. No blood marked her skin, yet she clutched a woven red sash tightly against her chest, fingers locked around it as if letting go would cost her something far worse than pain. "Ma'am?" Cole called, keeping his voice low. No answer. He crouched beside her, checking for wounds. Her breathing was steady. Her skin was warm. When he lifted her slightly to adjust her position, her hand suddenly tightened around his sleeve, strong, deliberate, before relaxing again. The moment sent a strange chill up his spine. She hadn't been unconscious. Not fully. Still, he couldn't leave her. He slid an arm beneath her knees and another around her shoulders, lifting her onto his horse with care. She weighed less than he expected, yet there was nothing fragile about her. As he secured her, her head rested briefly against his chest, and for an instant her eyes opened. Dark, sharp, aware. They met his before closing again, as if she'd seen enough. Cole swung into the saddle and turned toward his ranch, the sky burning orange behind him. He told himself he was doing the right thing. Anyone decent would. He didn't notice the way the wind shifted or how the land seemed suddenly too quiet. He didn't see the figures. High on the distant ridge, riders, painted in earth tones, still as stone, watching every step of his descent. As Cole rode on, the woman stirred slightly, her fingers brushing the red sash once more. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, unseen by the man who believed he was rescuing a stranger. Behind them, the riders turned back toward the hills. The ritual had begun. The fire had burned low by the time Cole felt her watching him. He'd been half asleep in the chair near the hearth, boots still on, hat pulled down over his eyes, when the silence in the cabin shifted. He looked up and found her sitting upright on the bed, her posture straight and alert, nothing like the injured woman he'd carried in at dusk. Her dark eyes tracked him calmly, without fear, as if she were the one measuring him. "You're awake," he said, standing slowly. "Easy now." "You were hurt." She tilted her head slightly, studying the room, the rough-hewn walls, the single window, the door, the fire. Only then did she look back at him. "You brought me here," she said, her English careful but clear. "To your home." "That's right," Cole replied. "You couldn't walk. Figured it was safer than leaving you out there." Her lips parted as if she might smile, but she stopped herself. Instead, her hand moved instinctively to the red sash lying beside her. "You chose to bring me," she said softly. "Well, yes," Cole answered, frowning. Something in her tone unsettled him. Most folks woke scared, confused, grateful. She seemed certain. She rose from the bed without hesitation. Cole stepped forward, ready to catch her, but she stood perfectly steady. No limp, no wince. She moved across the room as though she'd done so 100 times before. She paused at the door, then knelt and sprinkled a thin line of cornmeal across the threshold, murmuring words he didn't understand. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Giving thanks," she replied simply. At the table, she ate the stew he offered with real hunger, not the careful bites of someone in pain. Her strength showed in small ways. The way she held the bowl, the way her gaze never wavered when she looked at him. "My name's Cole," he said finally. "Figured I should know yours." She hesitated, just long enough for him to notice. "Nia," she said. The hours passed strangely. She asked no questions about the town, the year, or how long she'd been unconscious. Instead, she asked about the land, the cattle, the way the sun crossed the hills. When she stepped outside, she faced the open plains and lifted her chin, breathing deeply as if confirming something she already knew. The first sound of approaching hoofbeats came near midday. Cole froze, hand drifting toward his rifle. Nia stepped beside him, calm as the sky before a storm. "Do not be afraid," she said. "They are coming because you did what you were meant to do." Before Cole could ask what she meant, Apache riders emerged from the dust, surrounding the ranch in silent formation, and Nia smiled as though welcoming family home. The riders reined in just beyond the corral, their horses restless but controlled, as if even the animals understood the gravity of the moment. Cole stood rigid on the porch, the weight of every hard-learned warning pressing against his spine. He could count 6 men, maybe more, beyond the trees. Their faces were painted, their rifles visible but not raised. Still, danger hung in the air like heat before lightning. Then an older man dismounted. He moved slowly, deliberately, his hair silvered with age and braided neatly down his back. His eyes were sharp, not hostile, but measuring. He looked past Cole first, to Nia, then back again, as though confirming something long decided. "You found her on the ridge," the elder said in firm, even English. "You lifted her from the earth. You carried her across the land. You brought her beneath your roof." Cole swallowed. She was alone. "I thought she was injured." The elder inclined his head slightly. "You thought with your heart. That matters." Nia stepped forward, her presence suddenly different. Where she had been quiet before, now she stood tall, her shoulders squared, her gaze unwavering. "I was not hurt," she said. "I was waiting." Cole turned sharply toward her. "Waiting? For what?" "For the one who would choose compassion without fear," she replied. "For the one who would not take but carry." The words struck harder than any accusation. Cole shook his head. "You tricked me." "No," the elder said gently. "The land tested you." He explained then in measured phrases, about an old Apache rite meant to bind protector and people, a way to ensure survival through unity rather than war. A woman chosen by the tribe would place herself in apparent danger. The man who helped her, who crossed fear, boundary, and custom without violence or demand, would be bound to her in marriage, if both accepted. "I didn't agree to that," Cole said, backing away. "You can't decide a man's life without asking him." Nia met his gaze, something softer flickering in her eyes. "The ritual allows refusal," she said. "I would have returned to my people at sunrise." Silence settled heavily. The riders waited, unmoving. The elder's expression held no threat, only patience. That night, drums echoed faintly from the hills, slow and steady like a heartbeat. Cole sat alone by the fire, staring at his hands. He'd acted on instinct, on decency. Now those same instincts had placed him at the edge of a choice that could change everything. And what frightened him most was not the ritual itself. It was the growing realization that the thought of her leaving felt wrong, like losing something he hadn't known he'd already claimed. Dawn crept over the plains in pale bands of gold, and with it came a quiet that felt heavier than the night before. Cole stood outside the cabin, hat in his hands, watching the horizon as if the land itself might give him an answer. Behind him, Nia moved softly, gathering the few things she had brought, mostly the red sash, folded with care, and a small bundle of herbs tied with sinew. "If you say no," she said at last, "I will leave before the sun fully rises." Cole turned to face her. In the morning light, she looked nothing like the wounded woman he'd carried from the ridge. There was strength in her stance, certainty in her eyes. She was offering him a choice, not a trap, and somehow that made the weight of it heavier. "I don't believe in rituals," he said slowly. "I believe in what a man does when no one's watching." Nia nodded. "So do I." She stepped toward him and held out the red sash. "This no longer binds you. If you walk away, it remains only a symbol of what might have been." Cole took it, the woven threads rough beneath his fingers. He remembered the way she'd clutched it on the ridge, the calm in her eyes when he lifted her, the quiet trust she'd shown without knowing who he was. He exhaled deeply. "I brought you home because it was right," he said. "Not because I wanted anything in return." A faint smile touched her lips. "That is why I hoped it would be you." The sound of hoofbeats drifted in as the Apache riders approached the edge of the property, keeping their distance. The elder dismounted and waited, his expression neutral, respectful of whatever choice would be made. Cole looked from the land he'd worked with his own hands to the woman standing before him. Two worlds, both demanding honesty, neither forcing his hand. Stay, he said finally. Not because of tradition, not because of spirits. Stay, because I want to know who you are when you're not testing me. Nia's breath caught just slightly. She reached out and placed her hand over his. Then I choose you freely. She tied the red sash around his wrist, loose enough to remove, tight enough to feel. The elder smiled, not in triumph, but in relief. The riders bowed their heads briefly before turning back toward the hills. As the sun rose higher, Cole felt the land settle, as though it recognized the promise made upon it. This was not the ending he'd imagined when he rode out the day before. It was something far more uncertain and far more real.